I'm gonna live till I die. I'm gonna laugh instead of cry. I'm gonna take the town and turn it upside down. I'm gonna live, live, live until I die. They're gonna say, what a guy. I'm gonna play for the sky. Ain't gonna miss a thing. I'm gonna have my fling. I'm gonna live, live, live until I die. So we don't often start a funeral with a bit of Sinatra, but I thought it was quite appropriate. I thought, how better to explain the life of Sam Webb than have a little bit of Sinatra. You know, I'm gonna live, live, live until I die. How much better, just shy of 99 years, till the very end. He was a remarkable man and human being. I also find it quite funny that even though there's a woman rabbi here, the men are there, and we've got a mixed, you're allowed to blend if you want in this space. And again, Sam did things in his way. And he made his mark, and he didn't actually care what people thought. And he walked and marched with a sense of integrity and with a smile on his face, always. I saw him 3 days ago in the hospital, and he was flirting, as he always does. And he just had the biggest smile. He was just so happy. There was like another person to talk to. It doesn't really matter who you were. I don't even know if he fully recognized me. I think he did. But it was just, he found the beauty in all people, and literally like sucked the marrow out of life. A beautiful example of maybe what helps us live till a ripe old age, or a ripe young age, I don't know. מי האיש החפץ חיים, אוהב ימים לראות טוב, נוצר לצונך מרע, ושפתיך מדבר מרע. סור מרע ועשה טוב, בקש שלום ורדפהו. Who is the man who is eager for life, our psalms say, who desires good fortune. Shun evil and do good. Request peace and pursue it. The eyes of Adonai are on the righteous, God's ears attentive to their cry, and God saves them from their troubles. Thank you for being here today. My name is Rabbi Allison Conyer, and it is truly an honor to memorialize the life of an exceptional person. Death has taken our beloved Sam. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence, there is lamentation. In their tears, there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, God, and be with them. For Sam's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever. For his companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of his heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness and is now but a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. In this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us the ever-new message of God's nearness. It tells of our kinship with our Creator, in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. Adonai, ma'adam v'tede'ehu, ben enosh v'tachashvehu, adam lechevel dama, yamav katser over, baboker yatzitz v'chalaf, le'erev yumalel v'yavesh, tashev ednosh ad daka v'tomer, shuvu v'nei adam, lo achamu yaskilu zot, yavinu la'acharitam, כי לא במותו ייקח הכל, לא ירד אחריו כבודו, שמרתם וראה ישר, כי אחרית לאיש שלום. פודה אדוני נפש עבדיו, ולא ישמו כל החוסים בו. God, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are as a passing shadow, which in the morning comes and goes like grass renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to revert to dust, saying, return, O mortal creatures. Would that we were wise, that we understood where we were going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the wholehearted and behold the upright. They shall have peace. God, you redeem the soul of your servants, and none who trust in you shall be desolate. A poem by Linman Hancock. When I come to the end of my journey and I travel my last weary mile, just forget if you can that I ever frowned and remember only a smile. Forget unkind words I've spoken, remember only the good I have done. Forget that I ever had heartache, and remember I've had heaps of fun. Forget that I've stumbled and blundered and sometimes fell by the way. Remember I've fought some hard battles and won ere the close of the day. Then forget to grieve for my going, embrace my life and come what may, and remember me in your heart, for that is the place I will stay. And come in the shade of evening, when the sun paints the sky in the west, stand for a few moments beside me and think of me and remember only my best. Esahenai, El Heharim, Me'ayin Yavo Ezri, Ezri, Me'im Adonai, Ose, Shamayim Va'aretz, Ezri, Me'im Adonai, Ose, Shamayim Va'aretz. A limb has fallen from the family tree. I keep hearing a voice that says, "Grieve not for me. Remember the best times, the laughter, the song, the good life I lived while I was strong. Continue my heritage. I'm counting on you. Keep smiling, and surely the sun will shine through. My mind is at ease, my soul is at rest, remembering all how truly I was blessed. Continue traditions, no matter how small. Go on with your life. Don't worry about falls. I miss you all dearly, so keep up your chin until the day comes when we're together again." Psalm 23, the Psalm of David. Adonai ro'i lo echzar, bino desher yirbitzeni al mei menuchot yanachaleni, nafshi shovev, yancheni b'ma'ag le'tzedek lama'an shamo, gam ki elech begetza mavet, lo irara ki ata imadi, shiftecha u'mishantecha hema yanachamuni, ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged zorarai, jishanta v'shemen roshi, kosei ravaya, ach tov v'chesed yurdafuni kol yamei chayai, v'shavti b'veit Adonai le'orech yamim. God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. For those of you who have been to a funeral that I've officiated before, you know that I have a sacrilegious reading of this text. Again, very fitting for Sam. He did things in his own way. He experienced God, religion, Judaism, family in his own way. And he was the patriarch of the family. His house was a holy house that everybody came in and felt love and safety and calm, and knew that whenever you walked into his house, whenever you walked into his presence, he would embrace you. His attention would be on you. He was interested in who you were, each and every one of us who came into his presence, who came into his house. He saw us. He talked to us. He made us feel that we mattered. He gave us a sense of calm and clarity when our lives felt like chaos. He made us feel that our lives were blessed because he was a part of our lives. That's a gift. That's his part, his spark of the divine that was within him. King David's son, King Solomon, wrote the book of Ecclesiastes and tried to understand why good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people. And he said, "L'kol zman ve'et l'kol chefetz tachat hashamayim, et laledet ve'et lamut, et latat ve'et l'kor natua, et livchot ve'et livnot, et livkot ve'et lischok, et sofed ve'et rikod. For everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what has been planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance." And he certainly knew how to dance. "A time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak." In this week's Parsha, or Torah portion, Vayetze, we read about Jacob's journey as he flees his homeland in search of safety, long story short, a couple of wives and a couple of handmaids later, he finds himself the father of an incredible growing family. But first, at the very beginning of his journey, he has a dream that we read about in this week's Torah portion, a dream of a ladder reaching from heaven to the earth, with angels moving up and down. When he awoke, he said the famous line, "Echen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh, va'anochi lo yadati." Surely, God was in this place, and I did not know it. For only after his dream did he fully grasp the connection between heaven and earth, and his part, later to be his struggle in forging that connection with the divine. During his life, he changed his name from Yaakov, Jacob, to Yisrael, Israel, and he became the father of the Jewish people, Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel. This week, we read the beginning of Jacob's story, which paved the path to the Jewish nation. This week, we also come together to hear the story of another patriarch who, like Jacob, fled his homeland in search of safety. Along his journey, he too fell madly in love and became the father, grandfather, and great-grandfather to an incredible growing family. Today, we gather together to acknowledge the life of Shmuel Wapnick, who, like Jacob, changed his name to Sam Webb, who, like Jacob, lived an extraordinary life, overcoming many challenges, and despite the odds, made his name great, came out on top, and paved the path for a strong, beautiful, and thriving family. Sam will be remembered as a cheeky, positive, creative, resourceful, curious, adventurous, methodical, detail-oriented, opinionated, sentimental, generous man with a love of people and family above all else. As a husband to his beloved Raymond, Sam was her rock, her other half, her partner in everything. They shared a deep love and loved each other until the end. As a father to Rosalind and Les, Sam was amazing, caring, loving, generous, inspirational, and a great role model. As a papa to David, Emily, Maya, Michaela, and Noah, and a great grandfather to Louis and Pip, he was warm, fun, kind, interesting, and interested in each and every one of them. He had a great sense of humor and wasn't afraid to get down on the ground and play with them or to talk about anything and everything with them. And to Margaret, who cared for him for the past decade, you forged a special bond that meant the world to him. Like Jacob, who only after his dream did fully grasp the connection between heaven and earth and his part in forging that connection with the divine, we too, only after Sam has gone, will truly grasp the connection his presence brought us to one another, to our people's shtetl origins, to our Yiddishkeit, forging our connection with the divine as he did his connection with all people. His curiosity and admiration for different cultures and people reflected his ability to see the divine and bring out the divine in everyone. Sam, you were one of a kind. That special something that you were made of is no longer in circulation. And those of us who were privileged to know you, and those of us who were blessed to be loved by you, will treasure our time and our experiences with you always. Sam, you will be dearly missed. Zichrono levracha. May his memory be for a blessing. Rosalind.
Okay, case I need moral support, I'll come to it. Thanks, Alison. Just put together so beautifully. When I was a little girl, my daddy was the handsome, strong man, I'm going to get this out, who always made me feel safe. When I was a little girl, my daddy created a world of fun and adventure, whether at the beach or the forest or anywhere, instilling a thrill in exploring together what was around this corner or that corner. And to this day, that is the manner in which I enjoy my travels. I can still smell and taste the potatoes thrown straight into the barbecue fire, the skin becoming charred and black, eaten with lashings of butter. We'd laugh as we blew on the hot potato, impatient to get into it. When I was a little girl, my daddy created in us a love of the water. All the Webbs became water babies. Later, Les and I took up scuba diving with Dad. Les is going to talk more about that. My daddy acquired a huge skiff kayak, which reversed served as the lunch table on the sand, and then upright became a great vessel on which we would all clamber to ride atop the water. Whilst walking along the beach, a trail of dogs somehow would appear and follow him. So it wasn't just humans who were drawn to him. He also somehow managed to convince our mother, a major feat, to surrender to our pleas to keep an unclaimed black and white border collie who had wandered into our yard. We called him Timmy after the dog in the famous Five. My daddy was also like a movie hero, free diving into the sea and bringing up such wonders as seahorses, which, when dried, regaled the bar as decoration. When I was a little girl, my daddy, Dr. Sam, as he liked to think of himself, took me, aged about 10, to that very bar, advising that he had the best medicine to soothe my minor cough and sore throat by giving me a sip of brandy, much to my mother's consternation. But it did work. And to this day, cognac is my favourite spirit, and we would often share a glass together in my adulthood as our after-dinner drink. When I was a little girl, my daddy taught me how to do formal dancing. Mum and Dad were a lovely pair of dancers together. At gatherings, such as New Year's Eve dinner dance on holidays at Cowes, he taught me how to do such dances as the cha-cha, the waltz and the Charleston. Decades later, at a 20s New Year's Eve party, unbeknownst to me there was a prize on offer. I just got up and danced with my friends to the band playing a Charleston tune. I got the prize. And I was dancing as if I was with, my dad, how he taught me. A love of dancing of any sort has never left me. When I was a little girl, my daddy showed his love and support of his children. Some of you will relate to this. Showed his love and support of his children by shifting his football allegiance from Carlton, the suburb where they first lived in Melbourne, and where he first saw a strange oval rather than a round ball, to Collingwood. Those in Australia would understand the depth of love shown in that very act. As a sports person himself, he learnt a lot about the tactics of the game, and particularly in the latter years, I would go to his house and watch games with him. He proudly wearing the Collingwood scarf that I gave him, and being a better commentator than any on TV. And he was just as happy as any of us when Collingwood won the grand final this year. When I was an adolescent, he became Dad. When I was an adolescent, my dad, to whom physical activity and exercise was an important aspect of life, supported and took great pride in my sporting ventures whether it be school sports or with clubs such as Ajax or Melbourne Uni, whether it was swimming, athletics, netball or basketball. Often he would take me to training and watch me compete. He appreciated the importance of pushing through the wall, to keep fighting towards your goal, and how to be a good team player, a leader and a captain. All good metaphors for life in general. And Dad didn't stop fighting to the very end. When I was an adolescent, my dad kept a keen eye on my social activities, and particularly any boys that might be around. And sorry to any of you who might be here today, though I would complain on occasions when he wouldn't let me go out somewhere, I did get to realise that he was wanting to still keep me safe. When I was an adolescent, my dad confronted the change in me shifting from being a relatively conforming child and young person to changes in my own worldviews and challenge those of my parents. He would vary from engaging in vibrant debates to moving into lecture mode to try and show he knew better. This was not an uncommon stance. My later adolescence and early adulthood were some of our most difficult times in our relationship. And it's probably not surprising that in my professional psychology and psychotherapy career, that was the stage of development that became my area of expertise. When I became an adult, my dad realised that I needed to learn from my own mistakes and successes. We opened to an exchange of viewpoints and learning from each other. Through all of this, he was always there to pick me up if needed. When I became an adult, my dad continued this unwavering, loving support, playing on the floor with and being a safe haven for my own children, David and Emily. He showed the way to me to be a good parent and was the absolute best, fun and loving grandparent, and now great-grandparent, also with my own precious little Sasha. They live in the Netherlands, but she makes frequent mention of Papa Sam. She met him in person a year ago when she was 18 months and via occasional video calls. David, Miriam and Sasha are arriving in Melbourne very soon at the start of December. The plan that my son had was to share Dad and his birthdays, which are a day apart on the 2nd and 3rd of December. Though Dad won't be here in person, we will celebrate him all together. When I became an adult, I appreciated even more than before how he was so admired, respected and loved in all areas of life. Someone, people have said to me he's their hero. Someone just now reminded me that he always thought of him as his idol. And this was whether in business, friendships, anywhere he went, he was drawn to people and they were drawn to him. But not just in a superficial way, but at a meaningful level of depth. When I became an adult, I valued for myself what was so important to him. That is, putting your arms around and being in the arms of a loving, connected family. And it was this that was so precious for us and him in his final days. When I became an adult, my dad would say, no matter what, you will always be my little girl. I will keep looking after you. This little girl, an adult woman, says, thank you, Daddy, Dad, for showing me the way to be a good enough, all-round, decent, loving person with the capacity to have faith in myself and be open-hearted to others. Thank you for demonstrating a good work ethic, a commitment to causes and projects, and the value in giving back. He is with his beloved Raymond, my mum, who went almost every week to visit her at the cemetery, making hearts from river stones on her gravestone, while updating her about family and business, all sorts of things, and asking her advice. I feel that he is wherever special souls and angels go. No doubt, even there, he will be checking everything, organising and making sure that all is in order, done properly, and for the world in general. We love you forever, my special daddy, Dad.
Sam was kind, compassionate, empathetic, generous, loving, and has had a thirst for anything or anyone. Overall, he loved life, loved people, and was always positive, no matter what the circumstances. He was youthful till the end. Thank you all for the kind condolences, and it's your words which best describe Sam. Here's a snippet. He was a great person, our hero. What a life he lived, a very special human, one of a kind, very sweet, one of life's true gentlemen, a wonderful role model, and I already miss him greatly. Sam was the epitome of a great migrant success story and a model of the best of us, triumph over adversity with grace, humility and good humour. I was so lucky to have him as a friend. He enriched my life. Sam was such a star in every capacity. Wisdom, laughter, fun, he could light up a room. From one of his employees. He's left such an impact on our hearts. He was not only a respected boss, but a cherished friend. His warmth and wisdom will be greatly missed. Your dad was what we should aim to be in life, such a special man. For one of my daughter's friends. He was always so warm and friendly and curious about our lives. He was so youthful and blended easily with us 70 years his junior. I remember at my mother's funeral, the rabbi saying, if God put an angel on this world, it was my father, Sam Webb. And he truly was an angel. He had such a zest for life, still exercising, going to his office, driving, and do what most 98-year-olds could not do. It was in fact 2 weeks off his 99th birthday. Continually amazing, all his medicos, physios, trainers. He loved to show his balance, standing on one foot on a balance ball. He loved things to be ordered and an incredibly organised mind. Even in his last days at hospital, the first time he'd been in pain from his pancreatitis, he pointed to my visitor sticker. I had it on my jacket, and it was upside down. God forbid. He said, can you put that up the right way? When he went on buying trips for his wholesale giftware business, he developed his own formula to work out what the items he was looking at in factories would cost in the shop. And in his own head, he could calculate packing, shipping, customs, markups, and he was incredibly accurate. On these trips, he travelled to Japan when no Australian wanted to buy from Japan after World War II. He was a pioneer into China and India, where he developed strong relationships with factories which enabled him, at the ripe age of 92, to do the biggest deal of his life, supplying Walmart in the US direct from China. He went on buying trips with my mother in every part of Europe, including Italy, Spain, England, Portugal, Hungary, Poland, Romania, and to the then Czechoslovakia. My father formed lifelong relationships with his agents, which he maintained. I was the beneficiary of this relationship with Satish in Delhi and Alvaro Pacini in Florence. When I was travelling, they would always chaperone me, invite me to their houses, and take me to wonderful restaurants. Born in Breslatov, in 1924. At that time, it was part of Poland. Prior to that, it was part of Russia and is now part of Belarus. There was a Jewish shtetl in Brest, and my family lived in a compound where my grandfather had a sheet metal factory. My father was subjected to anti-Semitism from the time he started school, where he was continually taunted by the Polish boys as a Jew. Not knowing any better, this became simply part of his life and part of his resilience. Despite that, he enjoyed his youth playing with his brother Bill and sister Anne and their extended family. He recalled being inventive, making ice skates by strapping a piece of wood to his shoes with a thong of leather, making a V shape at the bottom with wood, where he would insert a piece of thin metal and then skate on the ice. He particularly enjoyed visits to his mother's family in Biała Podlaska, where they would play in the woods and swim in the river. He recalls as a young boy making a floating device by stringing together cork bottle stoppers. My grandfather was a great orator and became president of the Workers' Union in Brest, and often would travel to Warsaw to lobby. He became a speechwriter for the MP representing the union, and it was this which eventually saved his family. In 1938, there was a pogrom targeting the Jews in Brest, assaulting, looting, breaking shop windows. My father recalled spending days in their loft of their house, hearing the sounds of the looting and the assaults. My grandfather had put the young kids up in the loft. We were fortunate as a family to do a roots trip to Belarus, probably not possible now, in 2019. The whole family went, my father, me, Danielle, my kids, Maya, Michaela, Noah, Maya's partner, Nathan, and their kids, Louis and Pip, who was then just a baby. My sister Roz went with her kids, Emily and David's then and current partner, Miriam. It was very cathartic and emotional for my father to visit his place of birth and relive his youth. He was able to remember the synagogue where the family prayed. It was now, when we went, a picture theatre, but you could go down to the basement where there were the stone walls. And he emotionally put his hand on the stone wall and did a prayer for all his lost family. My father recognised the trees he used to play on, climbing, the bedroom he slept in, and the attic where he and his sister Anne and brother Bill hid during the pogrom. We were fortunate that he was able to find the house, and when we knocked on the door, and the woman who was then living there, when she heard the story, welcomed us in, and we were able to go through the whole house. My father showed the banisters where he used to slide down, his bedroom, and that attic where he hid with his family during the pogrom. We were put in contact with a UK-based group called the Together Plan, which were active telling the story of Jews in Belarus during the war. Part of what they were doing was, and Jenny, I think you're here somewhere, the Nazis had taken the Jewish gravestones to make roads, and they were digging up these gravestones and to put in a memorial. They also put us in contact with a researcher in Brest who put together our whole family tree. And it was quite emotional seeing that hundreds of my father's family had been killed by the Nazis in the woods in Bonagoro. We went there and we said prayers for them, and it brought home the reality of what we're currently going through with anti-Semitism. They unearthed a newspaper article from where my grandfather had gone into Warsaw for a workers' convention. The newspaper article indicated how my grandfather had addressed the union in Yiddish and Polish. This then was a scandal. How my father's immediate family got out of Poland pre-World War II was fortuitous. My grandfather, on finding out in that 1938 pogrom that it was led by the Polish chief of police in Brest, had complained to the mayor of Brest and the MP with whom he had a relationship in an effort to instigate an inquiry. Within a couple of days, he was told by the mayor, get out of Brest and get out quick. His life was in grave danger. And so the family left, packing wicker baskets and heading to the port, from where they went by boat to Southampton. They were left with the choice of migrating to either Uruguay, Zimbabwe, then Rhodesia, or Australia. Look at a map, Australia was the furthest away from Europe, so Australia it was, thank goodness. Whilst in Southampton, my father spotted a vendor selling bananas. He'd never tasted a banana, but had seen them on a Tarzan movie. He begged my grandfather for a penny to buy a banana, and he sat on the sidewalk and for an hour savouring the taste, which he could never describe. When he got to Australia, he could buy 6 bananas for a penny, and this became his means for valuing things. How many bananas would that buy? My father enjoyed the boat trip to Australia, the sea air, hearing other languages, and mixing with various people from England and other countries. My father enjoyed that trip, and on landing in Australia, the family lived in Drummond Street in Carlton. My father recalls from the upstairs window seeing kids kicking a strange-shaped ball on the nature strip. His curiosity got the better of him and he went downstairs to observe closer. To his surprise, the kids invited him to kick with them. This would never have happened in Poland, and it was that opened his eyes to the inclusivity in Australia. He was just 13, and the working age was 14, so he lied about his age, and as the war broke out, there were factory jobs for anyone, and making things particularly for the war effort. One day at the factory he was working in, there was a co-worker around his age, a little bit older, who was calling him a refo, slang for refugee. My father ignored it, as it was nothing compared to what he used to cop in Poland. However, some of the older boys said to my father, "Why aren't you doing anything about that?" My father said, it didn't matter, but they said, "Okay, what we're going to do is organise a fight at lunchtime, and you can sort it out." As a good Jewish boy, my father's mother had always told him not to get in fights with goys. Nevertheless, the fight took place. My father landed a few punches, as did the other chap. And when there was blood, the other worker said, "Righto, now get up and shake hands." From that day on, my father was never called a derogatory name by that boy or anyone else at the factory, and he actually made friends with the other boy. At 16, he announced to his parents he was going to work on a farm in Swan Hill, where he found a job that was paying more than the wage he was earning in the factory. Always the adventurer, he wanted to experience rural Australia. Things didn't work out that well on the farm, where he was more or less exploited as a slave, so within a month he had hitched a ride back to Melbourne. During the war there was a shortage of fuel, so my father and his friend Ted Levinson converted motorbikes to run on kerosene. And though it had to be pushed to start and was noisy and smelly, they were able to travel around, and he always said he loved going to Warrandyte. That was the bush. During the war, my father's brother Bill and my grandfather set up a cottage industry converting scrap metal in their backyard in Brunswick into useful items like rubbish bins and pots and pans. They would then sell these at markets. My father recently confessed that the van, also converted to run on kerosene, that he and his brother Bill used to take to sell their goods in the country markets in Warragul and the Western District, had a mattress in the back which they told their mum was to sleep on at night. He confessed that the mattress got quite a workout with the country girls, both during the day and at night. My father met my mother when she was doing her matriculation, year 12, at University High. He was infatuated by the exotic, beautiful French girl, and although she had ambitions to go to university, and indeed got a place in the pharmacy college, they were married when she turned 17. My mother was exceptionally bright, and my father, though uneducated, had an excellent gut instinct for business. Once married, they went into the giftware business, usually the markets, shops, then wholesaling. My mother had a great eye for goods and was a gun seller. My father, a wonderful negotiator and a calculated risk taker. As a team, they built a fantastic business. My father was always ahead of his time. As he was in Australia and buying goods in foreign currencies, he worked out he could utilise exchange rates to his benefit. At that time, all the currency transactions out of Australia were done in London. He was early into derivatives, hedging, but not many Australians knew what hedging was. He was going long and short currencies back in the 1960s. He was an early adopter of computers. When he realised that they could do better than what many humans could do, he installed in 1977 an IBM 34 system. This took a very large room, cost over $100,000, and it then cost him $60,000 extra to program it. He was still, up until a month or so ago, spending time on his iMac, doing Zoom calls and following the stock market. He's also a proud Tesla owner, and I've got his watch on, his Apple Watch also. He understood the value of land and invested prudently, always buying, never renting, both for work premises and living, as well as using surplus funds for property. He often recalled the story of his father had told him about a relative who was a general in the Russian army. When they were being beaten on the front, the general said to the Tsar, "We need to retreat, our army will be slaughtered." The Tsar replied, "Men are expendable, land is not." My father was exceptionally fit both in body and mind till very recently. I recall when I was a kid, he'd do the Canadian Army 4BX program every day. This was a challenging regime of exercise that ramped up as you passed various levels. He embraced swimming, golf, gym, Pilates, yoga, meditation, and up until very recently, he would put the younger people to shame at Gwingana, where he was a pin-up boy for doing all their programs, both exercise and healthy food courses. As Roz mentioned, he loved scuba diving and would go on wonderful exotic diving trips with both his family and people he'd met from various countries around the world. Initially, when I dived with him, he was my buddy. In diving, you have a buddy in case anything goes wrong. There is a system where you can share your regulator. If there is an issue with your buddy's regulator, or if either of you run into trouble, you share the other's regulator. On one dive, when we were buddies, I had a faulty regulator, and I did not have the amount of air I needed to dive. As I was running out of air, I looked around for my father, who was my buddy, for assistance, but he was nowhere to be seen. I later found out he had found an underwater cave, got fascinated, went in to explore, and forgot completely about me. I managed to get to the surface and swore never to buddy with him again. My father was so strong in both body and mind, and it really did seem that he would go on forever. He had from his past an extensive group of friends, and he made sure he visited any remaining living friends and relatives in aged care, homes, and hospital. He did this regularly, and he loved it. He still was going to the office until a couple of months ago, where he has Hanny and Lisa running the office. Family was everything to my father, and he loved having his family around. He'd always reinforce, family is everything. In his last days, he was in peace at his home, surrounded by family, including now part of our family, Sam's much-loved companion, carer, Margaret. Margaret had been with him for 10 years. Margaret has a great sense of humour, is multi-talented and a fantastic cook. We are also indebted to Margaret for teaching my father how to swear. He never did prior to being with her. Then things became fucking this, fucking that all the time. Thanks, Margaret. Margaret was always by my father's side, and she got to know him better than he knew himself. She knew when he was in hospital with a catheter and a drip and not meant to get out of bed, he would try. He was still strong enough, she knew. She knew he wouldn't buzz the nurses as was in danger of falling. She would stay all the night at the hospital sleeping on the floor. Thanks, Margaret. We will be eternally grateful and look forward to seeing you, your food, at all our family simchas. In his last days, my father was at peace at his home just the way he liked it, helped by Marv and his team at Hospice in the Home, who were truly wonderful. He will now be reunited with his beloved wife, my mother Raymond, and as you heard from Ros, they were a team always and a much-loved couple. On Thursday, he said to me, well, all of us, I have to do the shopping. I only have 2 days left. Indeed, he passed on Saturday, exactly 2 days later. My father's journey was so full of experiences as documented in his book, aptly named Being Bold. He loved telling his story to Romy. Romy, amazing. He just would like that to go on forever. He loved you so much. I'll just read 2 paragraphs from the book. At page 6 in the preface, quote, whatever I've done in my life, I can connect to my youth. That's why I can remember it so well. I've carried my youth with me throughout my life. It moulded everything I've done and shaped me into the person I've become. At page 73, over the decades, my priorities have remained constant. I still strive to learn, to search, to contribute, to be useful, to be productive, to challenge myself both physically and mentally. I felt fortunate that I have an ability to approach life as a series of interesting challenges. I strongly believe one of the reasons my father's longevity, with his wits about him, was his dedication to physical fitness, the fact that he was working right till the end, and most of all, his positivity in any and all situations. To borrow from one of your services, Rabbi Konya, birth, he was also very emotional, so I've kept it together till now, so hopefully I can. I've got the genes. Birth is a beginning and death is a destination and life is a journey. My father's journey has been so full and so wonderful right to the end. He and we could not wish for more than to be his age, doing what he was able to do with such joy, gratitude, love, kindness, compassion, and generosity. There's a poem that I've slightly modified to encapsulate how my father would like us to celebrate his life. It's a poem by David Harkins. You can shed tears that he is gone, or you can, as Sam would want, smile because of the life he has lived. You can close your eyes and pray that he will come back, or you can, as Sam would want, open your eyes and see all that he has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see him, or you could, as Sam would want, be full of the love you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can, as Sam would want, be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him and only that he is gone, or you can cherish Sam's memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what Sam would want, smile, open your eyes, love, and go on.
I'm going to ask the pallbearers to come forward up here to assist with the moving of the coffin, and I'll invite all the rest of the guests to exit through that back way, and we'll follow the coffin to the graveside right next to Ramon, and we'll finish the remainder of the service over there. Thank you very much.